And we, of course, have the extraordinary events that we understood yesterday of Graham Linehan, the comedic writer, and he put out some tweets months ago when he was in Arizona, and months later he arrives at Heathrow Airport to be met by 5 armed police. Armed police, not a big deal in the USA, a very big deal in the United Kingdom. 5 of them. And he was arrested and taken away for questioning. He's not even a British citizen. He's an Irish citizen. This could happen to any American man or woman that goes to Heathrow that has said things online that the British government and British police don't like. It is a potentially big threat to tech bosses, to many, many others. This legislation we've got will damage trade between our countries, threaten free speech across the West because of the knock-on rollout effects of this legislation from us or from the European Union. So I've come today as well to be a klaxon, to say to you, don't allow, piece by piece, this to happen here in America. And you would be doing us and yourselves and all freedom-loving people a favour if your politicians and your businesses said to the British government, you've simply got this wrong. At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport. This is a genuinely worrying, concerning, and shocking situation, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here today.
So what I can't understand is, what was Mr. Farage doing in Washington, trying to sort of raise these issues of specific cases in the UK?
It was actually worse than that, because and I should have said this before but forgot. He was effectively almost urging the American government to impose worse trading relations with the UK if we didn't get our act together on free speech. I mean, if that isn't traitorous, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. Look, that's the word, isn't it? It was treacherous to the British people and to our interests. And here's the fundamental irony. And I remember, because the Online Safety Act, I was the first witness to give evidence there. I remember giving evidence there in 2021, in September 2021. And one of the things I said was, we can only do this because of Brexit. The irony is that if we were in the European Union, we would have had to, the European Union's laws on this, the Digital Services Act, which is similar to the Online Safety Act, but I think actually inferior in a number of ways, that would have been the law of the British land too. We were able to carve out our own solution to the problem. And these delicate balances that have to be made between technological advancement, wanting to harness that for economic growth, wanting to have freedom of speech, but at the same time dealing with predictable, significant harms that we all agree need to be dealt with. And who better than the British to decide that? Because, you know, I live in America now, Ian. I keep being told you Brits have got a different values of free speech. You know, Locke, Milton. I'm like, Locke and Milton aren't Americans, you know. They are Brits. I'm like, actually, we're quite good at this. We have thought about it deeply, and we've come to some. Now, I don't want to badmouth your, erstwhile friend, former Prime Minister Mrs. Baroness Thatcher.
Don't they?
But it was her act in 1986, which was passed in response to Orgreave and Irish terrorism and a whole bunch of other issues that were prevalent in the 80s. When you and I had long hair and, were sort of still around, that was put into place. And maybe it's time that we think about that a little bit clearer and have some clearer guidance to the Met Police as well. On when they should
and the world has moved on a lot since 1986.
Nothing to do with what Mr. Farage was talking about. And it is dispiriting to see him there, complaining, as you say, urging them almost to put tariffs on Britain. For what?
Let's go to a follow-up call on this subject with Dominic in Chelsea. Dominic, go ahead. Hi.
Good evening, Ian and panel. My question is Nigel Farage a hypocrite or a traitor or both for heading to the United States and complaining about how the UK government handles free speech?
Harriet.
I'm just asking the question.
Okay.
Do you want to start with somebody else?
Lionel.
He's not a traitor. He doesn't deserve to be locked up in the Tower of London. He's grandstanding. Yeah. He's sucking up to Trump. He's sucking up to the free speech tech bros.
And betraying his country.
Well, I think he's dissing, he's discrediting a country. He's not completely wrong about free speech for the reasons we talked about.
No, but he didn't point out that Trump does exactly the same. If you want to get a visa to go to America, they want to know your social media record.
But that is correct. But that's not necessarily a treacherous action. I'm not defending Nigel Farage.
Sounds to me as if you are.
Well, I think he's discredited his country, he's talked down his country, he's hypocritical, just as Trump's hypocritical on free speech. And I won't be voting Reform UK either, just in case you ask.
You surprise us all. Nikki?
Well, the irony, of course, is that when this particular Republican congressman and colleagues came over in the summer, and one of them in the meeting tried to say something critical about Trump, Nigel Farage shut him down and said, no, we're not talking about that. So, his limits on free speech, apply to what he thinks, but not what anybody else thinks. And that's the hypocritical bit. I mean, probably a traitor is going a little bit too far. I mean, the bigger question is, MPs have just had quite a long recess. This is the first week back. It's Prime Minister's questions. Why was he not in the House of Commons today? When was he last in the constituency? Why is he grandstanding over in the US? I mean, this is clearly a bandwagon that he thinks, yet another one, that he's going to jump on around free speech, rather than many of the other issues that I think people want to hear politicians.
I mean, I did call him a traitor earlier in the programme, and I don't take it back. And I quite like Nigel Farage personally, but when you go to a foreign country and give evidence before a congressional committee, which effectively has the effect of saying, well, you might want to impose a few more tariffs on us, and that might persuade the British government to make free speech better in our country. I do regard that as traitorous. Ash?
I think that Nigel Farage is definitely a hypocrite. I think that his actions are currently not in the interest of his country, the country that he claims to love so much. But I think that traitor is just that step too far. Like, I really do. And we're in danger of agreeing too much on this panel. I think one of the...
Not with me, you're not.
I mean, it's the first time Ian's ever been way out there. Hang on a second.
You've disappeared into the Thames.
I'm normally the moderate one.
No, you're the spice in the soup tonight. Yeah. That's what you are. You're the spice in the soup. But I think when it comes to Nigel Farage, like he only has a problem with curtailment of freedom of speech when it's people that he regards in some way as being on his side. So when it came to,
well, he's not alone in that, to be fair.
Well, no, I think lots of people are hypocrites, right? And I think all of us have our biases and prejudices, which mean we turn a blind eye to our own side in various ways. But I think that when it comes to Trump and JD Vance, I mean, on the one hand, they're decrying, the case of Lucy Connolly. I think that it was a too harsh a sentence, but she did plead guilty to the most serious offence. Like that is what happened. So on the one hand, you've got Lucy Connolly becoming a cause célèbre for the global hard right. But on the other hand, you've got Trump and JD Vance using immigration enforcement to target pro-Palestine protesters on campuses across America and detaining, new father Mahmoud Khalil for weeks, if not months. So I think that going to America to decry, Britain's attacks on freedom of speech is to sort of, go into a steakhouse and be like, what about vegetarianism? You're going to the source of the problem.
But let's look at the bright side. All of the opposition parties to Reform UK are going to use those clips in the election and say this man does not believe in his country.
Well, Mohammed, Dominic, thank you for provoking a very good discussion.